Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got a legend with me right now, and I got somebody very special. I'm very excited to be just in his presence. He's been in the industry for years now. He's gone through a long list of really exciting, fun, cool projects. Some of the most recent is he is working with Nick Cannon's Wild and Out tour. He has been on multiple shows and projects with the Oprah Winfrey Network, and he is a production designer, an art director. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Korey Washington. Korey, thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Hello.
Korey, man, wow, it's just so cool. There's so many things I want to dive into, but we are limited, so I'll just get right down to it. Korey, why production design? And you've gotten to work on a lot of cool projects. So how did that path even start?
Well, it's interesting that you asked about that specifically. You know, I started in theater, and one of the things that you know about theater is it's really about creating environments and spaces for people to enjoy. And so, as I was coming up, it was I wanted to find out what was the entity that did that for television and film. And I had the opportunity early on to do some theater projects that got documented and filmed, and I found out that it was the production designer that was in charge of that. So that was my goal for a while after I started doing a lot of theater and touring shows, that I really wanted to have the title that made me responsible for the creative look of anything on television and film. So that's why I chose production design. But it's been a great journey, and I'm always ever learning, and I still keep my feet in dealing with live action and live events, because I love that as well.
Yeah, very cool. And if I'm getting this right, you were originally an LA native, and then you went.
I am.
Yeah, and then you went to school over in Georgia and Atlanta. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm a Culver City High School graduate. I'm proud of that, in Culver City, California. And I did my undergraduate degree at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and then my master's at the University of Georgia. And so, with being a professor and teaching all over the country, that has afforded me a lot of opportunities, working in Georgia, working in New York, Atlanta, International, and also Los Angeles. So coming back home to the Los Angeles area has been something that I've done back and forth. And now we have, residences in both. So it's been great.
Yeah, no, very well established. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm kind of the opposite. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I've come over here to the West Coast and been studying improv, acting, voiceover. And we just finished up our advanced study showcase, which has been a lot of fun. So I kind of did the opposite way of you.
Okay, all right.
But you've been around for a while, and you were back in Atlanta before Atlanta became the new Hollywood. Did you have any idea that would ever happen?
Well, that it's funny you say that. You are right. I was in Atlanta before it was Hollywood South, as they like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have an idea. I mean, I knew that that Georgia, Atlanta specifically, was a city that could play as different places, and that's what I noticed the most. I would see productions occasionally that would come through, and they were always, you don't think about it, but it's floral, it's greenery, it's seasons. Those
Mm-hmm.
things exist without the snow, kind of. So Georgia turned out to be that place where you can get all four seasons and not have to deal with snow, unlike New York or any of those things. And so it was really an interesting thing to be a part of, small productions that would come through and do a week or two in Georgia. But I did notice that. And so when the film industry started to open up and touring and things like that, I jumped on it because I just wanted to be a part. I've done, 18, 20 movies, and 12 of them I did in Georgia, not even knowing what I was doing. I was in charge of the way things looked, and the producers, it was right to work. So producers give you a ton of money. They say, go do this. It was just kind of what it was. But it was certainly fun back then. But you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
But I learned after a while. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And Korey, you have worked on some massive projects, and I know that it takes a lot to bring these things together. Talk a little bit about what does it take to bring a production like Nick Cannon's Wild 'N Out tour together? And then how has, like we were just saying, how has the industry changed just in the last few years of how you would pull that together back then versus now?
So I'll answer all your questions specifically. Nick Cannon's Wild 'N Out, I've been involved with it for the last, let's say, 3 years, almost four, certainly because of pandemic. But you know, the show itself is in its 18th or 20th season on MTV. I started dealing with the live action stuff around season 14 or 15. Keep in mind that there's 2 seasons a year of a calendar year, and then of course with COVID, you know, things stretch out. But one of the things that I was brought on to do was to try to give a live, large performance that matched the energy of what was happening on the small screen. So the very first iteration that I did, which was before pandemic, was, you know, an arena tour, and we had, you know, big screens and, you know, a lot of trucks, and it was fantastic, and Nick loved it. And it was, you know, from his words, the first time he really felt like it was larger than life, like it was a tour. Because I had come from, you know, big concerts. I did Kings of Comedy and Queens of Comedy. So I'm, you know, playing with 35,000 people or 40,000 people is, I don't want to say normal, but it's not scary to me, you know? So knowing how to play to an entire audience where the people are sitting in the fourth level and people sitting on the front row, I felt it important to be able to have everybody have a good dynamic time regardless of where they are in the theater. One thing that everybody notices is that a television is, you know, a choice of how you see it. Everything is always, you can see everything. There's no scale issues and things like that. So my job is to make it so that in an arena of 35,000 people, everybody has a good show and they're not just looking at ants running on stage. So bigger, things that are more dynamic, and to really fill the environment with the show. And as far as what it takes, I mean, I really start with the concept, you know, what do I want to see? How do I want it to play? One of the things that I've been able to be afforded with is just the creative advantages of how do you play something really big. And that's why I love the live action, because you can really do a lot of things that you can't do in a studio. You know, we had a 40-foot by 20-foot video screen, you know, that the people can play against and have family interaction and audience interaction. You can't really do that in the studio. So those are some of the things that have been great. But, you know, the process starts with just what we want to do. And then it's not even a trick, but it's just a logistical need. I look at the worst venue that's on a tour and I design for that, because it will not make any difference if you have a big, wonderful set and it can't fit inside. And I unfortunately, early in my career, I wasn't thinking that. You know, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Everything's going to be, you know, the Staples Center. No, you may have somebody's podunk auditorium and then the set is sitting in a truck. So nobody can enjoy it. So, you know, I had to think about those kinds of things and how to make things bigger and smaller. So that's kind of my process, and it's worked well for me.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. How going back to it, you say you start with the worst arena. With your creative process, you know, how much are you working with the talent to let them, you know, have word and, you know, let them feel like they're a part of the team, and then work with them? And then how much are you working with like the logistics of like, okay, I need this lighting, I need to go work with them. You know, how do you pull all that together?
Yeah, so I do work with the talent. Nick is very, very involved about what he wants to see, and even for Wild 'N Out, even the cast members. You know, it's they are all friends, and they are very aware of everybody else's strengths. So, you know, I'll talk to Justina, and Justina will want to make sure that she has certain props, and I want to play this video on this part, and I think that that's great. You know, it's really an ensemble. Wild 'N Out is an ensemble. That's what it is. And Nick wants to make sure that it comes off that way, that he probably happens to be the largest star on the stage, but he's not the only one, and everybody gets an opportunity to shine. I think that's what the success of the show is. And as far as working with lighting and sound, absolutely. I mean, there's so many things that are tied in. I mean, I have 2 meetings with DJ Rec before we even kind of go out, so that we can figure out how he's going to sync up his sound, how we're going to sync up what the videos are that are playing on the stage, because all of that seamless stuff that a lot of people don't realize is fixed in editing when you're on a television show, right? So there's a person sitting in a room for 2 weeks making sure the thing is right. But live means you have to have all the options available right then, right? So that means that whatever the lighting is, you got to roll with it. Whatever's the sound, you got to roll with it. Whatever the music cues and things like that. And on the tour, every stop we have a different local artist. It may be a local DJ, it may be one of Nick's friends, an artist, a comedian, or whatever. So we have to roll with a different kind of show essentially every day.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do, but it does take some planning. Some people have entourages, some people need a backup band, all those kinds of things. So my job is to make it so that the toolbox is able to accommodate all of those changes. And so it's a fun thing to do, and when it's pulled off, it's great. I want to go back. I said worst venue. I don't want to say worst. I want to say the one that has the most challenges, and I'll give you a perfect example. Madison Square Garden is a very iconic building. Everybody knows Madison Square Garden. What they don't know about Madison Square Garden is that to get things onto the stage, it is a 7-tiered circular roundabout only with forklifts. So when you think about that, that means I have to put set pieces small enough that can fit on a forklift that can go around in a circular path to get to Madison Square Garden because it's all underground. So yeah, Madison Square Garden, everybody knows about it. So it's a venue that has difficulty. Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed to, let's say, the Staples Center, where it's got 8 truck bays and you just roll up and you're right on stage. So you see the difference? It's like they're both iconic, but one has issues that you have to deal with. So if I build a wall that's 20 feet by 16 feet, it's not going to Madison Square Garden, no matter how much that show is valuable. You feel me? So there's a logistical creativity that goes into what I do and what we do that also is important just as much as how good it looks.
Yeah. No, thank you for clarifying that with us. I think we were all on the same page, but yes, just to put the correct word to it, the most challenges. With that too, Korey, man, you've been in the industry for a long time, and I'm sure, tell us a little bit about along your journey and your path. You start rubbing shoulders and crossing paths with, with some high level people. At what point did you kind of take a moment to yourself and just say, God, thank you for this opportunity, and we're headed somewhere, and I realize I have a responsibility. Like, when did that all started coming clear to you?
Well, I think that I think that most creative people feel like they're never there. They're never done. They've never made it. I am no different. I feel like I still have a whole nother gear that I have to pull, regardless of my age or how much experience that I have. But I think that there is a moment where when there's a synergy between your faith, your family, and your finances, that you feel like, okay, this is the moment where I feel like I don't have to find a job. There's a difference. It's like when you're in a career and you say, oh, I get to choose what I want to do that makes me most happy. And the benefit is finances, right? And that probably happened about, 10 or 12 years ago, because it was like I was grinding so hard that I wasn't paying attention to what I was missing out on. So much so. I've been married for 32 years happily, have 3 kids in college and all that stuff. But there were some of those years that I was gone, and I couldn't do anything about it because that's what the machine that I created. So, there's a blessing that comes with knowing that you don't have to take a job for finances. And I think that is such freedom. Oh my goodness. And it's not pretentious. It's not pretentious at all. It's just like, oh, okay. I've gotten to the point where I can choose what's best for me. And sometimes that's peace of mind. Sometimes that's, a big job, an easy job, a job that people want you on. That's another thing. And I think that everybody experiences this. When you are wanted on a job, it is better than getting paid on a job that you're not wanted on. I know it's crazy, but it's just like that. Sometimes your creativity is all that you have to give. And if people want it, that's smiles, unicorns, and rainbows at that point.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and congratulations. All those things you just mentioned. It's not easy, and people long for that: getting married, having kids, being successful in your career, and then doing what you love to do. Want to kind of draw on that a little bit too. If I'm correct, Korey, you work a lot with the youth in the community as well.
I do. I right now, there's probably the three biggest things that have been over the last 10 years. I've been a high adventure Boy Scout leader for troops in Georgia. I've been on the board of directors. I take them on high adventures to, Canada, Florida, and things like that, and have been a Scoutmaster for a number of years and been very proud of that. My two sons are both Eagle Scouts, and we've worked hard to, foster that in the community. In addition to that, from a production standpoint, I'm the resident designer for two youth camps, two youth groups. One is Amazing Grace Conservatory in Los Angeles, run by Wendy Raquel Robinson, who's the actress. She's on The Game and a whole bunch of other things. And then the Freddie Hendricks Youth Ensemble, which is YEA, which was another one in the Atlanta area, run by Freddie Hendricks, and he's still doing that. And those two opportunities, plus teaching on performing arts high school level, have been my greatest kind of joys. I get so much out of a eager 9th or 10th grader who's willing to learn how to, run a light board. Oh my God, I can't even, that's way more exciting than, a very, distant 35-year-old on the show. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really care. So I enjoy that, and I like keeping my feet in those things. I'm teaching at 3 colleges right now, 3 universities. It was mostly virtual during COVID, so it was a little bit easier. But I still have an adjunct professorship at a couple of colleges, and that's worked out well because I think all we can do is to give to others. That's all we can do at this point. We can't take it with us. Lord knows I know, mm-hmm. but we want to make sure that we can kind of share our gift and coach, I guess is the best way to say it. Not mentor is certainly one thing, but I get a lot of questions. Well, how can I do what you do? Well, call me in 15 years, that kind of thing. Not to be so blunt, but the reality is that this was not an overnight situation. And I still feel I have, 15, 20 more years in me before I can say, oh, I made it. Yeah. No. But it's been a journey.
Very, very cool. I can see that you definitely find, some, that's the cathartic part, the therapeutic part, the healing part, right? Is like you get to give back and be creative with, the next generation and with youth. And I'm sure there's many different things, because what you do is just very rewarding and exciting in general. But with that too, Korey, you mentioned a lot of things. You have a family, you have a life outside of your job, and then you bring these massive, or you help bring these massive productions to life. You have a lot of hands involved in different pots. How do you find balance in all of that? And like you said, you get to a point where it's like, yeah, I created this machine, but like, yeah, I need to step away and have time for family, or, I want to bring my kids on this project because it's possible. So where do you start to find that in your everyday life? Because I'm reading it right now. I'm reading Pastor Korey Roberts' book, Balance. And that's kind of been my theme for the year. And I've just been learning so much. It's a destination, like it's a place you get to. So, how have you started to find that place in your life?
It is really a lot of, I call it surgical planning. For the longest time, I would think about, just letting my jobs dictate my schedule. Mm-hmm. But once I decided and once I realized that a producer will respect another job before they respect, I need to go to my son's baseball game. Mm-hmm. I've made my family a job slot. Not that I needed to change the importance of it, but put it in. It's like I can totally be unavailable if I have to go move my child into college, and that's important to me, and my importance should not be dictated by somebody else's value. You know what I'm saying? That moving Jason into school is not important to the producer, but it's important to me. So therefore that's where we are. So it's a lot of different aspects, but I want to make sure that we have balance and that I force it. So that's what I do.
Got you. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And just a few more questions and we'll get you out of here. I know we're both limited here. Can you give us a few just maybe favorite moments throughout your career that kind of stood out to you, or maybe turning points where you learned something, or maybe, you changed the way you did something, or just spots or times that were fun? It's like, man, I got to do that.
I think one of the biggest ones, I'll give you two. One of the turning points was really working on Kings of Comedy. And I know that that's the antiquated thing, but being in the midst of people developing their success is such a rare and valuable thing to see. And I'll give you a perfect example. We were selling out so well on Kings of Comedy that we were having to, if we had 3 dates in New York, we'd have to add a 4th date, but the 4th date would have to be before the 3 dates because we just booked so much, right? So there were times where we weren't flashy. I mean, all the guys had television shows, so we only would travel Friday through Sunday, because they had the Steve Harvey show, they had Bernie Mac had a show, everything. So it was Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, and DL Hughley, right? And it was fantastic because I watched the development of these huge iconic jokes. I was on camera when Bernie Mac was developing the milk and cookies thing, and they told me, Korey, let go of the camera, because I was laughing so hard the camera was shaking. Why was I on camera? Because I was covering a camera guy who had to go use the bathroom. So the thing is, we were a big family, right? And so I remember us getting not stuck, but we were in a airport in Houston waiting to go to Chicago because they had added a date, and the flight got delayed, and there was all the Kings of Comedy and the crew, was like 6 of us, and we sat around for 2 hours and just watching these guys talk and being a part and playing the dozens and talking about people walking by. It was fantastic. And at that moment, I said, being in that inner circle is way more valuable than anything else. And so I can tell this story 20 years later, but it was so beautiful to see that. And there's a lot that people take advantage of or take for granted when you think about comedy and how people build their craft. And it's work. I think it's harder than drama, to be honest. But
yeah.
So that was a huge moment. And then another one was really when I had the opportunity to see the growth of. We had done a thing with the youth, and we did a performance of Dreamgirls, and it won there were 15 awards to be given in Georgia for the Schuler Awards, and we won 13 of the 15. Like it was like, I think we lost sound design or something like that. But just to see that success for those kids was so great. So sometimes being a part of somebody else's success is way more valuable than your own. And I cherish that. And so I'm glad that I have that to remember. So,
man, got the goosebumps, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's fun.
You're welcome.
Korey, you mentioned that you still feel like, you have something to prove, and you still, got 15, 20 years left in your tank. Where do you see yourself going in the future? Where do you see the industry heading with everything changing?
Well, I still want my space movie. I say that all the time. Hannah Beekler is a good friend of mine, and she does Black Panther. She's won the Oscar and all those kinds of things. And it's interesting when you get to the success that you dream of, you change, right? So now she's directing, right? Because she wants to. It's like, we never learn from our A's in life. We always learn from our B's, C's, and D's. I mean, that's what it is, right? So when you are totally at the top of the game, you're like, I got to do something else. Yeah. Because I can't get better than the best, right? So I want my space movie. I want my blockbuster. I also want, to be remembered for my craft and not my words. And so I still feel I have, I'm on All Rise right now, and I love the show, and I think it's really changing the culture and doing a lot of things. And I'm looking forward to the next steps of that, and really want to make sure that we have a good amount of opportunity to grow and to do other shows. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, Korey, man, it has been so cool just to, like I said, share space with you today. I hope to get to meet you soon. I'll take you out here on this last question, and I ask this to all my guests. Okay. What thought, prayer, wish, hope, idea, verse, whatever it is, what would you like to leave all of the listeners of the Wavehealernation with out there?
I'd like to say that, we should always be creating, always, in all ways. When we stop creating, then we're no longer needed. So creativity can be in any form, whether it be your speech, the way you draw, the way you present yourself. But I think creating always, in all ways, is the best way to think about progress in life.
Awesome. Well, hey, there you have it from the professional himself. Korey, thank you so much, man. This has been such a fun time, such a true blessing. Always welcome back.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.